Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Cordillera Textile Talks webinar. We are pleased to have with us two of our Japanese friends who have worked among the Ifugao people in Cambulo. Would like to introduce them. Yukiko Ito is a visiting research fellow from the coastal cities at risk in the Philippines at the Ateneo de Manila University. She worked as a social development specialist over 20 years at multilateral and bilateral organizations to address poverty and inequalities in Asia and the Caribbean. Yuki continued to learn backstrap weaving from different weavers around Asia. In recent years, she has been interacting with the backstrap weavers in Cambulo, Ifugao in the Philippines that produces bast fiber textiles, and Yuki has a master's degree in social development from Ateneo de Manila University. And with the others, research speaker is Tetsu Ito, is a specially appointed researcher at the Institute of Regional Studies in Okinawa at the Okinawa University in Japan. He has worked as an economist for bilateral and multilateral development banks as well as academic institutions across Asia, the Caribbean, and Africa for over 35 years. His current research interests include agroecology, cultural commons, translocal learning, and social and solidarity economy. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Manchester. So we would like to welcome Tetsu and Yuki. Good morning.
Morning.
Hello,
Good
good
morning,
morning.
everyone.
So, welcome to this edition of the Corditex webinar. And what a lovely background! And you're wearing the bark fiber being made in Cambulo. So, without further ado, let us now start the webinar. Thank you. And we also would like to welcome our audience from other parts of the world, from the US, from the Philippines, from Japan, from Germany. So we see you there. Thank you for coming and to listen to this webinar. The Corditex Textile Project has a website. You can check that out. And we also upload these recordings through the website. If you missed this, you can also listen to this again. We also have a Facebook page, Corditex Project. And we post our updates on our research activities and other webinars through this social media platform. So we'd like to ask Yuki and Tetsu to start the presentation. Okay. Okay. So anyone from the audience, please give us a thumb up sign if you see our screen. Thank you very much. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for your prompt response. Okay, Yuki, are we ready?
And thank you for tuning in. And Ikin, thank you so much for having us. My name is Yuki, and together with Tetsu today beside me, we will first start the overview slide for about 20 minutes on the Bast fiber textile and barkcloth culture in Barangay Cambulo, which is located in municipality of Banaue in Ifugao province, followed by a 10 minutes video viewing on how bast fiber textiles and bark cloth are made for all of us to better understand by looking at visually. Good morning, and thank you for Textiles and barkcloth culture is declining all around the world, but there are still some being used in Japan. The tree bast fibers listed here in this slide are from the left: Japanese linden, wisteria, hibiscus. Then going to the bottom are paper mulberry and lobed elm. Hibiscus circled in pink on this slide is no longer woven in Japan. And the paper mulberry circled in green here are exactly the reason why we got interested in Cambulo. So let me start to tell you the story. We encountered two references that mention about bast fiber textile in Cambulo. One was written by Nobuko Hiroi, based on her field research in 1982 about Ifugao backstrap weaving that used different bast fibers. The other was a chapter written by Lim Milgram in a book published in 2007 called Material Choices that described the bast fiber production in Cambulo, mentioning specifically as local paper mulberry tree being used. So if indeed Cambulo uses paper mulberry for their weaving, would the textile be similar to the Japanese paper mulberry woven in Japan called tafu? Since we were living in Manila at that time, we decided to go and visit Cambulo in February 2023 to find things out. With the help of our DSWD friends, we reached Cambulo and found 4 women in their 60s and 70s that were still weaving bast fiber textiles using their backstrap looms. You can see them on this slide on the upper left photo, with their names Josephine, Agapita, Nena, and Felisa. They all started weaving bast fiber textile in the mid-1990s when Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, PRRM, launched a program to support the 15 bast fiber weavers in Cambulo. But the membership slowly declined gradually as PRRM pulled out and for other many reasons. So the 4 remaining weavers continued to weave until today. The other photo here are the bast fiber weaving processes, starting from collecting the materials from the surrounding wild forest, stripping out the skin of the bark to get the inner fiber, split the fiber to ply, join, and twist using the spindle, and finally weave using a backstrap loom. The process will be shown in a video right after this presentation, so please stay tuned. Nena's daughter, shown in upper left photo, are Lisa, Moderita, and Janet. They have grown up seeing their mothers weave bast fiber textiles, and so naturally helped her. And therefore, they pretty much know the process itself. However, as they feel they cannot sustain their living by weaving, Lisa and Janet cultivate rice while giving massage to the tourists. And Moderita is a full-time staff working for elementary school in Cambulo. Although many younger generations are familiar with the bast fiber weaving, they still find it very difficult to identify the trees, and even so more difficult to climb up to cut the branches in the forest. If no materials can be collected from the forest, then that means that no bast fiber textile can be made, risking of not being able to sustain the bast fiber textile culture itself. Now, aside from the bast fiber textiles, you can see at the bottom of the slide, some Cambulo men beats tree bark to make bark cloths. You can see Jesse on the bottom left, who is a barangay police, and Bernie on the right is a carpenter. And they can prepare unique hats from the bark of a tree for specific occasions to last for a day or so. Having both the bast fiber textiles and bark cloth in one location is very unique worldwide. Here is a quick note on the differences between the bast fiber textile and the bark cloth. On the left side of the screen, bast fiber textile is a woven fabric made of bast fiber threads extracted from the trees. Meanwhile, on the right side, bark cloth is a non-woven fabric made by beating and spreading the tree bark. Ifugao bark cloth may have been viewed as the past thing, so it was very nice to find out that it still exists. For bark cloth, a specific tree variety called toba, or sometimes called topia, is used and shares another one called hua that can also be used for weaving. The tradition of wearing bast fiber textiles and bark cloth remains in Cambulo and Pula, which is adjacent to Cambulo. In 2023, we participated in both the Banaue's Imbaya Festival as well as Cambulo's Tungao Fiesta and saw the people wearing bast fiber textiles and bark cloth. These are worn only during special occasions nowadays, and everyone seemed very proud of expressing their cultural identity. Others used to wear bast fiber textile and bark cloth until the 1980s, but Miss Lily Bea Luglug of Banaue Museum once told us that the tradition sadly dies out without the successor. Over the 3 years, we visited Cambulo for 7 times to listen and to learn from the people. I would like to begin by sharing about the weaver-to-weaver mutual learning exchange. This picture was taken during our second visit to Cambulo in March 2023, with Tetsu in the middle, wearing his vest, woven in Japan using paper mulberry. The weavers saw this vest, asking about the material and how the pattern was woven. This vest was woven by Fumie Ishikawa, with a red arrow pointing at her, who is a paper mulberry cultivator, as well as a weaver herself from Tokushima Prefecture in Japan. You can see the Mayan Leno variation patterns from Guatemala enlarged at the back. Fumie learned this pattern from Toshie Hoshino, shown at left corner of the slide, who is an experienced backstrap weaver who learned how to weave in Guatemala and Mexico, now based in Kyoto, Japan, and hosts weaving classes. For our next visit in July 2023, 3 Japanese weavers from Japan came and accompanied us to Cambulo for a weaver-to-weaver mutual learning exchange. We want to emphasize the mutual or reciprocal, as both weavers learned from each other. Aside from Fumie and Toshie, now Hoseno O, who is a Japanese paper shifu thread weaver, joined for her second time in Cambulo. We are here with Marie, the owner of the Cambulo guest house. The Cambulo weavers took the Japanese weavers to the forest to show the trees used to extract the fibers. They were fast in spotting the trees and climbed up with the knife to cut off the branches quickly. In the forest, the Japanese weavers did not see any paper mulberry trees. The Cambulo weavers also showed the process of extracting the bast fiber. There are, as you can see, different colored yarns. They are all natural colors coming from different trees that are not dyed at all. The Japanese weavers took notes to match the plants and the bast fiber yarns, so not to forget. The weavers were using around 4 to 6 bast fiber threads, but PRRM encouraged at that time to increase the colors for design purposes. So the weavers looked for additional trees in the forest that gives different colors. And currently, they are using around 10 bast fiber threads. This size shows 9 bast fiber threads used for weaving, but without lungi and rai, the two are missing. The yarns circled in blue are both bakhi, but the dark gray one has been dipped into the rice paddy. And gumamera, circled in red, is the only cultivated variety that is used to bundle rice straws, but the weavers started to use them to weave and made it easier for older weavers as they did not have to go deep inside the forest. The weavers showed the woven textile using different colors to make their designs. In turn, the Japanese weavers showed the paper mulberry woven in Maya Leno variation patterns on the right photo, which is soft and airy that the Cambulo weavers were interested to learn how to weave this pattern. To make the bast fiber thread, the weavers use a spindle and alternate two threads by ply joining and twist. The Japanese weavers learned how to use the spindle, and Bernie the carpenter made extra spindles for them so that they can take back to Japan. Both the Cambulo and the Japanese weavers use backstrap looms for weaving, but with different ways of warping. The Cambulo weavers showed on the loom, warping in a circular manner, while the Japanese weavers showed off-loom warping using two poles in figure-8 format for single-layer weaving. Or they even showed warping on the leg of a chair for circular warping. For backstrap weaving, the Cambulo weavers showed circular warped weaving without a reed, which can be traced across many Austronesian textile cultures. The Japanese weavers, in turn, showed single-layer weaving and demonstrated the Maya Leno variation weaving pattern as seen in bottom right with Lisa trying it out. For the bark cloth, the Cambulo beaters showed the continuous beating of the log until the outer skin loosens up and eventually slipped off in a tubular form. Naoko tried beating the log and made barkcloth herself. Right after this presentation, the barkcloth beating will also be shown in the video. During the wrap-up meeting, both groups of weavers shared their learnings, discussed challenges, encouraged each other, and brainstormed new ideas before they bid farewell. The weaver-to-weaver learning exchange was a catalytic experience for both Cambulo and the Japanese weavers. Let me walk you through what kind of experimentation and innovation happened after the learning exchanges. After Toshi's return to Japan, she transformed the Cambulo textile into a sling bag by adding a woven sprang that she wove using the bast fiber from Cambulo. You can see her on the left side. Next, she wove the Maya Leno variation pattern using the bast fibers from Cambulo. And further on, she continued to weave the mobile phone case and a bag using gumamela for both warp and weft, which the Cambulo weavers were not using at that time for warping. After this trial, the Cambulo weavers started to use gumamela for warping too. Toshie also started to train me how to weave Maya Leno variation and even sprang weaving, so that I can continue to transfer to the Cambulo weavers when I return. I felt a lot of responsibility. During our next visit to Cambulo in July 2024, I organized a sprang weaving workshop that included younger generation who were eager to learn new skills. Lisa and Janet learned first so that they can teach the others. I also helped Lisa and Janet to review how to weave Maya Leno variation pattern that the Japanese weavers transferred a year ago. The Japanese weavers continued to discuss how the Cambulo textile might fit the thick, rustic texture used for Japanese obi belt for kimono. Naoko knew the obi purveyor in Kyoto and linked us up with Yamaguchi Genbei, who runs obi business for 10 generations. He saw the woven obi by the Cambulo weavers, and he really liked it. He provided feedback how to improve the woven obi, which he tells it must be of an exact size, washed properly, address the skin stickiness if ever, tight weaving, and avoid color transferring risks. After hearing the feedback from Genbei, the Cambulo weavers started to address these issues. For example, the right photo shows Nena dipping the bakhi thread into the rice paddy that contains natural iron salt to avoid the brown color from coming out when washed, and which created a darker gray color. The left photo shows Janet doing bacterial fermentation scarring. To remove the sliminess, and the thread became brighter color. The exact obi length is now achieved by considering the shrinkage rate and fully washed and dried before the final finish, as Lisa is doing. These attempts came from their past know-how as well as hints coming from the Japanese weavers. Meanwhile, in Japan, Fumiya tried using a spindle she learned from Cambulo to ply, join, and twist her paper mulberry kozo fiber. It worked well, and after seeing that using a spindle was much easier for some people, she reproduced the spindle and taught other Japanese weavers through workshops. And Naoko started creating translucent bark cloth from paper mulberry trees. With the community starting to revitalize, there seems to be a growing momentum to share and further enrich this culture with people inside and outside of Cambulo. Let me share you what more is happening. During the Tungao Fiesta, the weavers organized a program to demonstrate the steps for Bast fiber textile weaving. As you can see on the left top photo, some junior and senior high school students who came home for the fiesta is gathering around the Cambulo weavers to learn so that they can showcase the uniqueness of Cambulo to the other classmates. Here are pictures of the finished obi made by the Cambulo weavers. Bast fiber textile attracts a lot of people, especially those wearing kimono in Japan. The core textile fans often prefer textile woven in backstrap loom by the highly skilled weavers for its distinctive texture. They believe that maximum respect and compensation should be paid for such creations. As an attempt to connect the Cambulo weavers to the Japanese textile fans, Genbei and us are planning for a 3-day exhibit called Tsutikusa during March 2022 in Kyoto next month. Check out the QR code in the middle of the screen for the exhibit details. Tsutikusa in Japanese literally means earth and grass, co-created by 23 groups of artists from around Japan and across Asia, of which Cambulo Weavers is one of them. Tsutikusa will be the first time Cambulo Obi product will be shown in Japan. Not only Tsutikusa will showcase the talents of each artist, but also connect them to each other and to the buyers, thus serving as an avenue for collective inspiration even beyond the event. Meanwhile, Lisa and Janet continued to help their mother in the weaving process and also helped us with the interpretation and translation. But they too have been actively pursuing their weaving practices by sewing bags, learning Maya-Leno variation weavings, sprang weavings, and spinning their yarns in preparation to weave. Lisa and Janet actively engage with people who are interested in resuming or learning Bast fiber textile weaving in Cambulo and Pula. For example, the students experienced how to use a spindle, and Lisa's daughter Charity have now taken an interest in Bast fiber textile. And Janet's mother Betty, who lives in Pula adjacent to Cambulo, has resumed weaving Bast fiber textile. Lisa and her daughter Charity now weave Bast fiber headbands and bracelets using the leftover threads from the weavers. These became attractive souvenirs for the trekkers passing by Cambulo as remembrance. Lisa also attempted to weave 2 mobile phone cases using Maya-Leno variation weaving, but has not gone back to doing so since then. Janet has been spinning threads and now became a great weaver herself. The weavers are now offering Bast fiber exposure tours for the tourists, just like what the Japanese weaver experienced, the Cambulo tradition. And please check out the Cambulo weavers Instagram page. You can see on the left side. There are many pictures and you can see how beautiful Cambulo is. As the story has shown, the Bast fiber textile and bark cloth in Cambulo are surrounded by many actors, starting from the families of the weavers and beaters, as well as textile artists from elsewhere, such as Japan, and textile fans like us, and further adding the supportive school teachers like Gemma, photographers such as Mom, barangay officials such as Capitan Jesse and former Capitan Bob, museum curator Lily, and academia such as Dr. Emma Porio of Ateneo, as well as now Ikin from UP Baguio. Other actors occasionally join, such as the fiesta participants, the students studying outside, the designers, the tourists, tourism industry itself, and eco-cultural guides. The Bast fiber textile and the bark cloth culture now can be called as the cultural commons. Thank you very much. And now I would like to show you a 10-minute video that shows visually the Bast fiber weaving and bark cloth beating processes, as well as the beauty of Cambulo. So please enjoy viewing.
Yuki, there's no audio. Can you check the audio?
Yep.
Or you can narrate as the video is playing.
Okay, hold on. They're all natural. The natural sounds are coming out, but I wanted also to get the audio in. Which one was it? Was it the...
You can start from the beginning.
Right, but let me just Ikin, which one was the recording, the audio?
Oh,
Press the wrong.
Yeah,
can
I
you?
think it was from the beginning. Let me just
Yeah,
read it
just from the
again.
beginning, and then
Okay.
you can narrate, and then we'll wait for the audio to come.
Okay, hold on for a second. Was it remote control? Okay, let us just narrate a little bit, no?
Yeah.
Okay, from the beginning. So
Yes.
basically, this video was taken through 3 years of being in Cambulo and trying to, for my purposes, to be able to remember things. And I just compiled it together. And the video itself has no sounds. It just has the background sounds or the nature sound, but I will narrate as we go. So I'll start from the beginning, the 10 minutes video. So this is Cambulo. Yeah, there's no sound, but it's okay. So we're starting with the bast fiber weavers. They're going towards the forest to climb up the tree, looking for a specific plant that they would be able to cut. And she's climbing up with a bare foot and cutting the branches of the trees. So she spotted one. She's very quick. And then Lisa is removing the outer skin so that she would be able to reuse the outer skin. And then she's getting out the outermost layer of the skin and getting the fiber out. So once the fiber is out, let it dry for a little bit. And so once it's dried, it looks like this. This is a dried fiber, the bast fiber. And you can see at the back side, Nina is also spinning using her spindle to ply join. But before doing so, they pound the fiber so that it becomes softer. So this is a process so that it's not like very stiff. The fiber itself becomes a little bit fluffy. And once it's done, they split the dried fiber according to their desired length, because they ply joined two of them together, so they imagine how thickness they would want. So each thread they are trying to dissect. And then once it's done, you see the spindle used to ply join two fibers together using a spindle to twist the spindle as she goes. And then she would carefully kind of hold on to the joint to be able to spin that part. The two threads you see are like spin together now into one. So the entire process is like that. And once she comes to the end, she would join another one so that it would be continuous thread after finishing the ply joining and twisting the fiber. And after that, she would make sure that it will be on this kind of a number of like a wooden thing to be able to make it into a yarn, more or less, before she boils in the ashes. So they burn a lot of logs. So a specific variety of wood ashes, they would put it in the boiling water. And then she's putting the fibers, the threads in there. And she's putting another one in there. I recall this was the Hua variety.
They do this to remove the impurity using the alkali from the ashes.
So the third one inside. And depending on the type of the threads, the minutes of Do you see the video?
Yes, we can see it.
Because I see something popping up. Sorry. So after they boil and take it out, they wash it with the water very carefully to remove all of the ashes that is stuck in the fiber. And then let it air dry very carefully. And after all, it will become a thread ball with different color, meaning, as I explained, they're all coming from the different varieties of plants. And the warping is done here on the loom, and one person is the weaver standing at the back, and the other one is helping out how to weave. They're using two thread balls at the same time, but they have specific techniques in doing that. But having a tension, Nena is pulling the loom so that it will not be uneven. And then finally the weaving with the backstrap loom. Both of them are weaving right now with obi hanging. The weaving is very tight and it's a plain weave, but the design comes from the warping. And so for this one, they're making stripe warped using different bast fibers. And these are the finished products. So this is what we explained about the bacteria fermentation scarring. So it made the fiber much more white, and the sliminess that a particular plant would have was removed. And this is the bakhi, which was brown, but if you dip into the rice paddy that contains the natural iron salt, it becomes very dark gray color. And now she's rinsing the fiber to remove the mud from the rice paddy and washing it very carefully so that, and then hanging it out in the sun so it will be totally dried. And here are some of the obis that had been produced. And this is the Maya Leno variation weaving that we tried out. And this is a sprang weaving workshop that we organized in Cambulo. Their younger ones are very keen to learn this one. They can create threads out of it, not threads, sprang out of it. And Lisa and Betty are trying out with the Maya Leno variation weaving that they learned from the Japanese weavers. And successful. They have not used the bast fiber yet at that time for practice, but this one is a bast fiber. Lisa had woven two of these, and these are the bast fiber headbands and the bracelets that they wove using different design. It's actually upcycled threads and bark cloth. So they actually continuously beat, but not too strong so that the outer skin will not break. Gentle, but enough strength to let the outer skin loose. And as you can see, it slips up in a tubular form, slips out. And if you beat it a little bit more, it will kind of spread a little bit and it becomes a little bit wider. So the first step was to remove in a tubular form and make the hat design when it's still wet. You can just, as you can see, they're spreading it out a little bit to make the design on top, like a helicopter or a mushroom to me. And this is the fiesta, the Banaue Imbaya Festival. So they represented, each barangay had their own costumes on. And as you can see, there are some wearing pure bast fiber attires and also the bark cloth hats. It's very unfortunate because the sound of the gong and things are supposed to be heard. I don't know how you can put on the sound. I forgot how. Maybe we can upload this in somewhere. So this is the dance that they do when they are starting from very small. So it's very natural. And there are this is in Banaue. And during the village fiesta, there were also Purok representative, also competing against their attires and also against their dances. Lots of fun games, native dances, native games. This was like a 2 days gathering. Lots of gongs, lots of dances, lots of songs. These people are very, very beautiful when they dance and they sing. It's a pure fun 2 days for the villagers. And we also, as outsiders, observed and we had a very, very nice time here. The gongs are very, very beautiful. I wish that the sound was possible here. And towards the end, this is the Cambulo as we leave. So that's it for now.
Okay. Thank you very much for that very wonderful story, Yuki and Tetsu. It's so admirable now to see this revitalization of bark weaving and bass weaving in that area. So maybe you can show us some of the tools and things that they have used in Cambulo.
Yes. So for one thing, we were supposed to have the Cambulo weavers live connected in Cambulo. So it was a joint presentation by the Cambulo weavers and us because all our information was learned by the Cambulo people themselves. So we're just representing on their behalf. But unfortunately, there was a blackout, scheduled blackout from today from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock. And apparently I was just hoping it will not, but it was. So none of the Wi-Fi is dead. They don't have in Cambulo the mobile phone connectivities. So when the power is out, there's no means except for the radios that they have internally within Cambulo. So meanwhile, what we will do instead of having the Cambulos, we would like to show some of the things that we have. Do you see very well? Oh, wait. Do you see, Ikin? Are we
Yes.
on full
Yeah.
screen enough?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're in full
Okay,
screen.
I don't have to come that near then. So this is a spindle that they used, and they had kindly shared it with me. It's an old spindle. It's this part uses the heavy wood. This part is very nicely rounded in a way. As you know, Cambulo carpenters are very talented carpenters over there. Of course, the blacksmith is also very well known over there, but the carpenters are amazing. So this is actually the reason why this part is very heavy is for it to be able to put on down and then spin like this, like a top. They're also the tops, and nowadays the younger schoolboys are playing tops, and they're very good at that. Anyways, so they use this to ply join two fibers together. The fiber, the ball.
Okay.
So there are many different the bast fiber threads. This, by using two strands together, I'm not going to demonstrate because I'm not good. Hey, Joanne is there. So she's from Cambulo. I guess we have. Would you be able to let her in, please?
Yeah, she's in already.
Good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she's there. Joanne?
Yes,
Yes. I
she's
will click her to allow
representing
to talk.
Cambulo.
Okay.
Joanne, can you put on your unmute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Joanne.
Mm.
Maybe the
Meanwhile, Joanne and the Cambulo side is trying to connect. I'll meanwhile explain and not demonstrate anyways. So these are different threads that you see. They're very different colors. And each of these tetsu
Mm.
would come from different plants, right?
Yeah. It looks like it came from at least 10 different kinds of plants. It's not easy to identify what they are, but I suppose it can be classified into five species. Sorry, five families.
yeah.
Yeah.
We can see that.
Yeah. And then, so Tetsu right now is wearing a vest, the barkcloth. As you can see, I think this is toba, one type of a big hardwood that they use, which is, this is also the
Yes.
same. So if you see very carefully, it's like fiberish. It's actually the fiber itself of a bark, the inner layer. You can see how it's kind of see-through. Normally, these are made just before the fiesta time. They wear it like a hat, but it doesn't last for a long time. So they don't keep it in the house. But we actually tried our best to keep it and preserve it. And you can see really, it's really like a tree. But at the same time, it has it's very durable, but yet very soft and flexible. And it's amazing, when I was wearing this during fiesta, it was almost like having a spa, that your hair becomes so shiny after wearing it. And this was a beaten log. It's about this length, but now they have actually slipped it off. I've stuffed in with some paper, not so that it wouldn't collapse. But this is the kind of the tube that I'm talking about. So if you wet this and bang a little bit more, it will widen a little bit more. And the fiber would like come like almost like a net. So this is the woven headbands that Lisa and Charity was able to make. So this was actually taught by Miss Hoshino Toshie. So she actually told us this pattern, and now Charity and Lisa are the ones upcycling those short threads that the weavers can no longer use. They would transform it into these kinds of bracelets, as well as these headbands, to be able to make another product out of the very short, where the weavers used to burn these things because they no longer can use it. It's too short for them to weave. I think it's a great initiative. And as part of that, so you can see this bag as well. It is exactly the same as what Tetsu is wearing. So when they had a little bit long enough and they had to cut it, Lisa was the one who was able to make bag out of it. And then, these headbands can also be used, an idea from Toshie. And this is actually like a mobile phone case with Maya Leno variation. So these are something that was taught, and Lisa was able to make two of these. But the reason that is a little bit difficult, of course, compared to these kind of plain weaving, it becomes very, very soft and airy. And so therefore, the idea was that you don't need as much thread to use because it's precious. But at the same time, weaving this, you need heddles and different complex, which you need to kind of master a little bit more. Oh,
Can you show us the obi belt on the back?
sure.
It seems interesting because I know the length of a backstrap loom has a limit in terms of the length, but it seems that this is a very rather long. And how long
Well,
exactly?
the reason we came up with the obi belt was because they use G strings.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so for example, this is a G string.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually G string of Tetsu. And as you can see, it's very, very long. Very, very long to begin with, right? So they knew how to weave long stuffs like this. So it was a variation of having the exact length of the
I joined the Fiesta while wearing this one, so I learned how it could fit.
Okay.
It's just exactly like what small wrestler in Japan wears
Mm-hmm.
when they play
So is
small.
this a smooth kind of cloth now that's being processed to become smooth to wear, or is it
Um,
rough?
well, how was it, Tetsu,
How
wearing
was it?
the G-strings and also your
It's
obi?
it's just right. I mean, I was just I had an underwear underneath, but with underwear, I didn't have any discomfort. It's really nice to wear this.
Yeah, so this is actually Tetsu's obi that he wears. And this is made of full gumamela. Gumamela, Tetsu, is like a
Hibiscus
hibiscus, right?
family.
Mm-hmm.
I think the gumamela sounds familiar to many
Yes,
people in the
yes,
Philippines, right?
yes, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a particular type of gumamela
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
not
can
any
extract
kinds I heard, which Cambulo people can explain if they're here. Among many different kinds of hibiscus or gumamela, just one or two varieties, you can get the good thread.
Yeah. Joanne is there, so maybe Joanne, would you like to unmute? Or okay. 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 So yeah, so we have a challenge with the Joanna. Okay. So anyway, let's try to continue.
Yeah,
Still.
yeah. So I want to show this is Tetsu's obi, gumamela. But I wish I was there so everyone can touch this. But as you can see, it's very soft. It's very, very soft. Same as the G string. That one was some other material, right? So the difference between the G string that they used to make and the obi is the width. G-string is a little bit wider compared to obi. Obi has two types for men and for female, which also has different width. And the length, G-string is long enough, but it's a little bit longer, the obi. For us, it's about a little over 4 meters.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 4
Meters.
4 meters or 4 meter 30. So that's about the length, and compared to G-string, it's a little bit shorter. So what the weavers were saying, they're used to making long stuffs, but they had to move a little bit far away to be able to have the longer loom. So, and warping itself also. So it was like you needed to have a longer warping. So to get that exact width and the length was a little bit of a challenge at the beginning, but it's like a trial and error. And once you wash, it shrinks. So the length of the obi becomes a little bit shorter. So you need to kind of start computing, taking into consideration of that shrinkage rates. So the longer is better because you can cut if it's too long and recycle it or upcycle it for something else. So those are the obi things.
How long does it take to finish one OB size, or the ones you're wearing now? How long will that take to finish?
So actually, the weaving itself, I asked the weavers, and we were also there observing them weave. It's the weaving is the easiest part.
Mm-hmm.
Iking, you're a weaver, so you know.
But
So yeah, so
yeah,
and more than that, it's the process of getting the fiber itself.
okay,
I mean, we can go off and shop, but for the Cambulo weavers, amazing weavers, they go to the forest, and it takes like months and months to be able to
right.
prepare this ready to warp and ready to weave. So this is like really the tail end to become like this, but the entire story behind it is actually the material itself is taking a long time for them to make. And
Process.
of course, you know, the reason maybe that they have varieties of, you know, different colors is, of course, maybe sometimes it's very difficult to get one variety. They would be able to, from the forest, have like 10 varieties and they can mix it together. Maybe one reason for having different colors, which is beautiful, is for me, maybe the reason, exact reason that they come not like, you know, cultivated, but they come from the natural forest, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, um, this is very interesting show and tell, of course, the discussion that we had and presentations. So maybe we can move forward to our questions from the audience. We have questions from Timothy Manalo. Hi, Timothy. Timothy is a weaver from Canada, Phil Canadian. So let's read his query. Is there a reason why the fibers aren't dyed other colors? Aside from mud dyeing, the color palette of the weavings are earthly and natural. Do these designs represent something specifically like the landscape or belief systems?
We're not so sure, but there are in some occasions they died. We found, but they found there's no need to do that. And just one clarification, we show the case using the rice paddy, the mud, and referring to the iron salt, which is not exactly dyeing. It is more like mordanting. And using the pigment, color pigment, which the plant itself has, combining with the iron salt in the rice paddy, it exactly means mordanting. So they resort to mordanting now, but they probably find no need to use dye because they have already 10 different variations. Plus, using this natural mordanting, they get the darker color. So, I mean, they stick to the idea of not dying. It doesn't mean that they know, I mean, they know what dye, natural dye means, but they stop doing that for some reasons.
Yeah. So I think the earthy colors, of course, represent the soil. Does it have a symbolic meaning for the Cambulo people with this type of colors, or is it just for, is it that's available from the environment? So there's a deep connection with this colors
Mhm.
that they have, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the answer, but I can imagine from, as we mentioned, tutikusa, which literally means the earth and grass.
Mm,
And that is the image probably that they also kind of envision, I think, from what they make.
okay. All right. I hope, Timothy, you got that. So maybe may want to come to Cambulo and do some more
Mm.
research and do the actual weaving itself, no? It's fascinating. Anyway, you have question from Gay Shalsita. Hello, Gay.
Hello.
Okay, so her question is, what kind of wood from what kind of trees are used to make the spindles? And she said
Oh.
she's enjoying the presentation as I encourage more weavers to do cotton and abaca hand spinning. Where can we buy hand spindles? I think the smaller ones are good to handle fibers like indigenous cotton. So her question is, what kind of wood or what kind of tree are used for the spindles, and where can she buy or access these hand spindles?
Gail, you are welcome to come to Cambulo the next time we will go. That's number one. But no, I do not know exact name of it, but I heard from Bernie when he was making this that he uses the very thick and heavy wood for the spinning the top, but he uses very light for the handle itself. I really don't know. They actually use it for a long time. So this is really an old one that they have shared it with us. But as I explained during the presentation, Fumie Ishikawa, who's from Japan, one of the three artists who joined us, actually made her own in Japan using her own available spindle, the trees from her neighborhood. So it can actually be used, any of them. But the tip is that this part needs to be very heavy, and this can be, you know, I guess any kind, so that you can carve it to round it up. So I cannot answer because if I wish the Cambulo people were here with us, maybe they can, but that's all I know and heard.
Yeah, so
But
I
it's
think,
important thing is the mechanics is a bit different from the spinning cotton in this case, in the use of spindle. Where it's very unique is to do the ply join and twisting in turn using this instrument is quite unique. It's quite different from spinning cottons. It's a bit similar in the aspects of spinning after ply joining, but ply joining is completely different concept from the spinning. So that consideration should be embedded in the design, considered in the design of, or the weight balance and so on of these instruments in the case of spindle there. And what Ishikawa-san considered was also that element, I think.
yeah, I know that they use a lightwood tree called Gemelina. It's
Mm.
very much available in Ifugao area and also in the lowlands. But the heavier part of the tree, that one we need to find out because of course, the weight that you have to consider in the spinning process.
Now, of
We'll
course,
find out.
it also, they have their native houses
Yeah.
and that use their particular poles within that construction that needs to be
Yes.
very solid wood that they have to use. With the permit, they get that,
Mm-hmm.
the thick wood. And maybe once they are cutting those things and there are extras, those hardwood would probably very ideal to make this part of it.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that answer. And then we have Sandra Castro Baker. Hello,
Hi,
ma'am.
Sandra.
Sandra.
Okay. She's asking, what is bacteria fermentation scoring? What is this process about?
Okay. Uh, well, uh, we need to remove the impurities, organic matters when we make the thread. And the typical way of doing it is using alkali. If we stick to the natural materials, then lye. That's the same in Japan and other places. But the alternative could be resorting to the the function of bacteria, removing the impurities. But it is more time consuming. You need more experience to do that right. But many experienced core bast fiber textile creators recognize that uh, it would have less damage compared to resorting to the alkali, though it takes more time and experience how you handle it. Typically, they just use the water, dipping in the water for it depends on the weather, whether it takes 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 month. You learn by doing it. But what I heard is that for instance, for tafu, Ishikawa-san is experimenting for the last few years, resorting to also the bacteria fermentation. And I'm surprised that I conveyed that message, the experiment in Japan, to the people in Cambulo about this method. Then Cambulo weavers picked it up very, very quickly because it seems that they knew that probably in the past they also use that skill because instead of burning the logs, it's faster, but you need the fire for that, the flaming. But imagining the time, it's not that easy to get the fire. I think the alternative could be resorting to bacteria. I think. I mean, I think about it. Scoring.
Okay. We have a follow-up from Margaret Guys Mooney. She's asking, could this process be called as retting?
Retting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in case of
Mm.
the linen, the that's the exactly the same. Yes, the letting is the right word.
The
Yes.
flax.
Yes, flax.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are
flax.
two types of
Exactly.
retting
Exactly.
for flax, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. But perhaps the Cambulo people already knew the process.
I think
It's
so.
just
Yes.
describing, articulating how it is really done, no? So you can probably learn from that process. Okay, so we have
Janet was the one who quickly
Yeah.
experimented.
yeah,
And this
Yeah.
retting.
and this also.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a question from Karen Joyce Lardizabal. Her question is, are there efforts to share this weaving practice to other parts of Ifugao or even in the Cordilleras, since they are in a forest environment and they have raw materials? That is, instead of using cotton for most of their textile.
Ikin, that's your task to be in the middle.
I think, well, to answer Karen, we know that there are also bark and bast weaving in Batad,
Yes.
Ifugao. Based on the Corditex research, we have done research in Bauco also, and also a part in Nueva Vizcaya. They call it Talak in their local language.
Mm.
And they have, because of the widespread material, the wood is you can find it in the Cordillera. So the people have started to work on that material. So I guess number one is the spread of the tree. You can find it anywhere, and the knowledge has to be shared. Also, they know the technique, but since it's a very tedious process, it would take time, no, before it actually rise up to revitalization. Okay, in relation to that, during the Imbaya festivals in Ifugao, so you can see all of this bark cloth clothing, no, being worn by the people there. So it would be also interesting to see that
I
that
think
some of
it's
the
coming
Ifugao,
up in April
yeah,
this
summer.
year. Yeah, I think it has been since 3 years, I think. But Imbaya is in Banaue this year, and you will be able to see they're only actually Pula and Cambulo are the ones that are wearing these things. The others are not. So it would be very nice if you're nearby to be able to
Yes.
aim to go and see the Imbaya Festival.
And also, this clothing are shared during the trade fair. So for other, of course, for fellow Ifugaos, also for other visitors coming. So that's one way of sharing this. What else? How can we share that? Of course, in this venue, we share this kind of things already. Yeah.
Just one thing to add. I'm not sure about other areas in Ifugao in terms of the function of forest commons, kind of
Mm.
managing the forest. In Cambulo, well, I understand they maintain this culture because they have access to these different kinds
Resources.
of plants, well diversified. I mean, the biodiversity of the forest, and which is something to do with their forest management system, namely Inalahan communal forest and Pinug, the de facto
Ano?
privately owned forest. De facto is used because in the Philippines, as you know, the law states that all land with a slope of 80% or more is state owned. I just read about what I wrote about the forest commons. Therefore, a large proportion of Ifugao province is state owned. However, the Indigenous Peoples' Right Act 1997 guarantees the rights of residents to their ancestral domain. Pinug reflects the underlying concept that private forest rights are not exclusive to the owner. For instance, Cambulo weavers often collect wood materials to get bast fibers from someone else's Pinug. Likewise, villagers collect firewood from others' pinug under certain agreements, such as periodically cutting weeds. As such,
Mm.
the rights of ownership, management, and use of pinug are flexibly determined according to social family circumstances. Moreover, in Cambulo, a barangay ordinance issued more than a decade ago stipulates that the resident whose pinug returned to the forest would not be allowed to have their rights extended. Instead, the land should be returned to Inalahan. In this way, the forest commons continuously transform themselves in response to the changing environment. That is one important element I would like to highlight in Cambulo, in case Cambulo.
Yeah. But in terms of the query on sustainability, of course, they cut the trees or branches of the trees. Do they replant these trees in the forest again as a part of, sustainability?
Well, actually, there's one plant which is considered endangered, which is tobia.
Mm-hmm.
They refrain from cutting it. They used to use it for house building. It's important wood, but they decided not to do that. They use very, very occasionally only for hats.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
way, I understand that they're very, very conscious of the situations, conditions of each plants, I think. And it seems other 9 kinds of plants so far are more supply than
Still
demand,
there.
it looks
Yeah.
like.
And also, what we have seen is that they don't cut from the trunk of the tree, but it's like branches
Branches. Yeah.
trimming off the branches, so that
Good.
tree is still like alive. So that's one thing. And another thing that how to share across. And Ikin, I think we discussed about the possibility of the storybook.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
need to like eventually maybe try to
Make.
do that as well. Hmm.
Yeah. So popularizing this kind of weaving process. Okay, so just to read Gay's comment on the spindles. She said, very informative. Yes, spindles are weight and balance are important for the spindles. Now, we still want you to send out your queries if you have more questions. But I would like to ask, I think I asked all of it already. Uh, so, what is now the relationship of Cambulo to Batad area? So, we know that Batad also has this kind of bark and bast weaving. Are they sharing? Are they, because Batad is also a different community. When you pass by Batad, then you go to Cambulo. So, what is the relationship of the weavers doing this kind of bark and bast fiber weaving?
Yeah, so aside from Cambulo, as I said, Pula is next to Cambulo, and also Batad is next to Cambulo. Pula used to be an overall Cambulo, but they split in the middle, so they became something else, a Pula. But Batad, they also had the same kind of bast fiber weaving culture. And one weaver who used to own a guest house was actually the one who was the custodian of these weaving practices in Batad. But unfortunately, she had passed away, and I am not so sure that the weavers still practice in Batad. Right? So that's what we heard from the Cambulo people.
Yeah.
But I would love to see if
Yeah.
any of you do go to Batad and find out if there are any bast fiber textile weavers. Please do let us know.
Yes, we have documented many years ago this bass and bark fiber through an NHK
I saw
documentary.
that. I saw that program.
1996.
Yes,
Yeah.
I knew.
They didn't
Yes.
go
We
further. They
didn't.
stopped at the Batad.
Yes.
They should have gone to Cambulo and Pula
Cambulo.
back
Yes.
then, because that was the time PRRM came to the Cambulo. So the number of weavers suddenly increased in 1995 or 6, around that time. Probably
Yes.
right a few years after that, perhaps. But anyway, I understand that we saw that TV program 96.
Yes.
Only
So we
one
did
weaver is
that.
left in
One weaver
Bataan.
in Batad. So yeah, I'm not sure if she's still weaving. She's in the
No,
No,
no, no.
I heard
already.
she passed
She passed away.
away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but the guest house, right?
Still there.
Yes.
Yes.
it's still
Yeah, the guest
operational.
house is still operational, but the person
Who?
had, yeah. So I
Oh,
would like to know if there are others who continue on with weaving. She was
yes.
marvelous.
Yes. Also, another question is part of this sharing. Are this kind of weaving, are they introduced to schools to be part of their curriculum? Like, do the schools have plans not to incorporate that in their teaching? Because there's in the senior high school or even in the elementary, there's an arts and crafts subject. So maybe that's one way of revitalizing it. Are there plans to do that?
That would be a very good way of promoting, especially the senior high. As I said, they came home for the fiesta. They were very eager to learn. So if they would be able to, during their holidays, go back to their respective places where other barangays are representative in the high school, and they can show during that session, that would be a wonderful way of having such classrooms.
Yeah, so that's fantastic
That's
also.
another thing for you,
Yeah,
Iki. Maybe you can.
let's do it together.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do
Cambulo
it
people.
together. Yeah.
Actually, so the Cambulo side had just sent us a message that we're on standby with all their bast fiber cloth wrapped around them. Sent us a photo, but the demo and everything cannot be done, and they send apologies to the audience for not being able to like tune in because of the unstable signal that they have right now because of this bad weather. But they are all like listening to this webinar, and but they cannot actually be here.
Yes. Okay. Let me just have one last question. We still have 3 minutes. Are there other uses of the bast and bark fiber textile in other than the ones you have mentioned? Hats, clothing, loincloth, obi. Are there other uses of the
Yes.
bark, the the
The
bast
best.
fiber? Yeah.
It's not like mass production in the first
Yes.
place.
Yeah.
So it's
But you mean worldwide in the Philippines or
No, in
in
in what
Cambulo.
we have found in Cambulo.
Oh,
in Cambulo? The vest like this.
Yeah, vest, clothing. In our research, we found it used as a menstrual pads for
oh,
some old women in the
Mm,
past. So I was wondering if that is the same case with the Cambulo.
maybe in the past,
Yeah.
but
mm.
that would be an interesting thing. But
Yes.
what they normally do is because the fibers are very precious, they kind of like recycle, upcycle, upcycle.
Yes.
So maybe after they had finished wearing as their attire, maybe they would recycle it for something else. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that would be one of the things that they might be doing. Mm.
And
Yeah.
also, to be precise, the rami is part of the bast fiber
Hmm.
textiles, and the rami has been used for different purposes, I guess. But it's cultivated and industry produced, and
Yeah.
most exported for the industrial clothing. And
Yeah. In the Philippines, there are also rami
yeah,
and other, probably we need to do more research also in
mm.
other parts of the Philippines to see the landscape of this traditional kind of weaving using bast and bark fibers, no? For a future collaboration, maybe, or other scholars might be interested to look into this, and we can also have this collective collaboration and inspiration from this example. Okay, so we are nearing 11:30. Would you like to have some last words to our friends who are listening at this time?
From my end, just one announcement. We didn't say much about the plants this time,
Yeah.
but the article will be coming out this year from the London SOAS
Mm-hmm.
sometime this year. So I hope you have a chance to look at it on
Yeah.
details, especially of the plant aspects.
Yeah. So this is published in the Southeast Asian Review of SOAS London.
No, it's a so we had a textile conference as part of the Philippine
Okay.
studies. So it's part of the conference proceeding plus plus kind of edited
Okay.
volume. It's coming out this year soon. We're at the very last tail of it, so hope we can announce it eventually when the publication is out.
That's from the conference 2024, not last
All
year,
right.
but the
Okay.
2 years ago.
Yeah, and can you tell us more about the exhibit of
Mhm.
the next month in Kyoto? Was it in Kyoto?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's 20 to 22 March in Kyoto at Mr. Yamaguchi Genbei, Kondaya Genbei's very old house
Okay.
in the center of the Kyoto. So the 23 different artists are going to be attending, and one of them being Cambulo weavers. Of course, we will, it's actually the Obi is the main product that they are going to be displaying. So there's a QR code that we can probably circulate
Sure.
so that
Yep.
you can get more information from them from that.
Okay. Thank
Just
you.
one footnote is the
Yeah.
Kondaya is the one who promoted obi made of abaca for the last few years.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
because of Kondaya, the abaca obi became quite popular in Japan. Hmm.
Interesting. Okay, so we would like to thank you, Tetsu and Yuki, for this wonderful time in sharing the stories of the Kambulu people. And we see this beautiful hand-woven material, no? To explore also for other scholars and other friends who are here with us, and also for Corditex. There's somebody raising her hand. Okay. So thank you so much. And we look forward. And for those who missed this wonderful webinar. We are uploading this to our Corditex website and also to our social media platform for those who missed. And watch out for the next month, no, series of webinars. So thank you, arigato gozaimashita, and
Thank you very much.
Salamat. Thank
thank you
you.
And
so
thank
much.
you for Cambulo Weavers for being there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a
Bye.
good day. See you
See you.
soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.